that and more as we get up with you starting right now on a Football Friday. Here we go. We are presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Look at the squad we've got together here. I bet Joe's got a couple of picks for us as we work our way towards the NFL's Elite Eight, and the college championship game is Monday night. Here we go. It's a Friday, so we're fired up for the best weekend of the NFL season. Let's look at these games. Harry, what are you fired up for? Buffalo, Denver tomorrow afternoon.
For the Buffalo Bills, it's all about their run game. James Cook, you have to allow him to cook if you're Joe Brady. You cannot be one-dimensional in this ball game. What's the strength of the Denver Broncos in that defense? It's that pass rush. They led the league in sacks. So James Cook in that run game, and we all know Josh Allen is going to be a part of that as well, too. So you have to run the football and be balanced offensively.
We'll dive deep on that game, all the games, as we continue. Peter, what are you fired up for? Texans, Patriots, Sunday afternoon.
They did it against Buffalo, they did it against Kansas City, and now they've done it against Pittsburgh. Can this Houston Texans continue to wow us in these primetime games? This unit was so good against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh that I'm wanting to say they could be the best defense we've seen in the playoffs since the 2015 Broncos when it was DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller coming off the edge. Shocking performance on Monday night. Can they do it again in Foxborough on Sunday?
Sunday night, Bart, we've got the Rams and the Bears in frigid Chicago. What are you fired up for in this game?
I think it's all about Caleb Williams, and can he take the next step? You talk about his accuracy, in the game, his late game heroics. Can he be more accurate and more disciplined? Because you don't want to be in third and long against this Rams defense, and you don't want Matthew Stafford to get on a short field and make you have to play from behind.
Yeah, the Bears have come from behind a lot, but not going to be easy to do against this Rams team. And then finally, Lewis, Saturday night primetime. What are you fired up for? Niners in Seattle.
This is all about Sam Darnold and his health and his status going into this football game. Look, the Seahawks don't have to win because of Sam Darnold. You just don't want to be in a situation where they have to win in spite of Sam, meaning this. Over the past month, he's only had 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. His passer rating has kind of come down. His efficiency has come down. This is going to be a game where, look, this is a watershed game for him. I think this is a turning point game for him as far as the discourse surrounding his career, how he plays in this game.
Well, and all of a sudden, to your point, his health, yesterday in the middle of the day, I'm seeing reports he has an oblique injury. What do we know?
Yeah, they were at practice yesterday, and it comes out that he has the oblique, and Drew Lock took some number 1 snaps on Thursday. And guys, this game is a Saturday game, so this is the equivalent of a Friday, Sunday. So this is time, and he didn't miss a lot of practice yesterday. Clint Kubiak did not speak on Darnold's injury status. He just said, hey, Drew Lock was great during training camp and has taken snaps for us before, and we're confident with him as well if we have to.
So we're talking about the possibility.
I think Darnold said he's going to play.
Yeah.
But anytime you're not getting all the first-team reps 2 days before the game, that is reason for
a big deal.
Now it's keeping him sleepless in Seattle. So we're going to dive deep on all these games as we go. But concurrently with that, the coaching carousel continues to spin, and its first stop was right here in New York, where John Harbaugh and the Giants, as we speak, are finalizing an agreement that will make him their next head coach. The Giants have been 7-27 over the last couple of years. They've won 1 playoff game since they beat the Patriots in Super Bowl 46, but suddenly people are sky high on the Giants with this hire. Peter Schrager, what do we need to know? First and foremost, this is getting done, right? I mean, they're dotting I's and crossing T's, but the deal is
the expectation is today we'll get the job done, and
Okay.
we'll know, and we'll do a press conference next week. It hasn't been done yet. There's always, I would think it gets done. What's interesting is what staff is he bringing with him?
Right.
And everyone yesterday said, oh, well, Todd Monken's coming with him. Todd Monken still has an opportunity to be the head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and he's still very much in the mix there. Todd Monken also just interviewed for the Tampa Bay offensive coordinator job, where you look at Baker Mayfield and you look at what they have there, and Monken used to work in Tampa, there's a chance that maybe he would rather do that than go to the Giants. Suddenly you start wondering, well, who else? Could they bring back Mike Kafka, who was their interim coach, who had a great relationship with Jackson Dart as their offensive coordinator? Is it this Nathan Schillhouse, who everyone's talking about, who's on the Rams offensive side? And then, of course, there's Tommy Reese, who's no longer going to be in Cleveland. Does he get an opportunity to be the OC? John Harbaugh interviewed, and he is a CEO, but he is not an offensive play caller. He is not a defensive play caller. As significant as it is that they got Harbaugh in the building, I think a lot of people around the league are wondering, who is the OC? And then who is the DC? Who's he bringing with him? Fascinating times up ahead because of all the openings around the league.
Yeah, I mean, a quarter of the league still has openings, and that's after the Giants have filled theirs. You used the word perfect this morning in our meeting to describe the fit of John Harbaugh to New York.
Yeah, and I think, look, Peter touched on it, and I've used this word myself. John is the consummate CEO, and I believe he has a unique ability to really identify up-and-coming coaches, quality coaches, that he can then go ahead and turn loose on the offense, defense, special team, respectively, and help build a winning organization. He did it when he was in Baltimore. He identified many up-and-coming coordinators who then wound on going on to become head coaches or position coaches who ascended to coordinators who are going to be head coaches in the near future. I think, look, he has a unique ability to really relate to a diverse set of players. He's someone who managed a very, very, let's just say, combustible roster down in Baltimore that had a lot of different personalities, and he really set that place up for success. Look, I understand only one Super Bowl is not going to get it, right? You're going to ultimately have to answer for that. But I think in terms of what the Giants need as far as structure, a system in place, being able to relate to a varying, set of different types of players in the locker room, John's the perfect person. He'll get the right coaches. This place will be set up for the future.
Yeah, he definitely can relate to a diverse locker room. I was part of one of those locker rooms with him. What he is he's a man's man. And, for years, this Giants organization has operated without a brand, a style, an identity. And what he'll bring is that style and that identity to that locker room. He'll empower the players there, because one of the most disturbing things for me is that nobody checked Carter last year. Right? So, he'll empower his players to say, hey, if you got to come grab him up, if y'all got to scuff it out in the locker room, feel free. Nothing to happen here. And that's the issues that the Giants have had. They've had the talent. They haven't had the discipline. They haven't had the physicality. When the Giants are on brand, that's what they are.
So, look, they've got a lot of good young players, particularly the quarterback, who a lot of people are excited about. Harry, how good, how fast can the Giants be?
Yeah, I expect them to be in the playoffs for 2026. And part of that is because when I look at this division, you have teams top to bottom that have their own issues. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles, who's going to be their offensive coordinator? The Dallas Cowboys, can they stop a nosebleed? The Washington Commanders, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, they must get younger as a team. I also look at the Giants. They had 7 one-score losses last season. Now, I'm going to compare it to the Chicago Bears, who had a lot of one-score losses in 2024. With the right head coach, they were able to win a lot of those games in 2025. With John Harbaugh, who is a voice, and also that brand that you talked about, I expect them in those one-score games to be able to win those in 2026.
It's a good point. It's well made. So we'll see what the Giants do and their staff. Meantime, you were making an interesting point this morning that I think people should know. As your team is waiting to figure out who its head coach is going to be, there are a few coordinator vacancies that some people go through that, because I think it's interesting.
There are 8 head coach openings right now, and there are some quarterback questions in some of those cities, whether it be Arizona or whether it be Atlanta or whether it even be Miami, right? So you got those questions. Some of the most attractive offensive coordinator jobs in years are open. Justin Herbert in Los Angeles, Jared Goff and Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit, Tampa with Baker Mayfield. Then you go to some of these other places where you're like, well, that doesn't seem so appealing as a head coach, but the offensive coordinator job could be because of the quarterback. You're talking about Tennessee. You're talking about Baltimore. That is what's interesting to me. And then you start wondering, some of these hot young names, we're talking about Nathan Schillhouse, and you're talking about a guy like Odinsky. You're looking at some of these offensive names. Are you more set for success long-term saying, I will be the offensive coordinator in Detroit for a year and then hit the open market as a head coach next year, or I'll take the job in Tampa and work with Baker Mayfield and then be on the open market, than taking an Arizona job or a job where you don't feel as comfortable about the quarterback position?
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Bart.
What's fascinating about that is when you talk about, coaches that get fired and get hired, I always thought that was a bad thing, because what happens is you think that you weren't the reason why you got fired, right? So you don't learn those lessons. So I think the most fascinating thing is being able to go and be, kind of reinvent yourself. And I think whoever gets like Mike McDaniels could be the difference in like Super Bowl, that it can swing that far. If he decides to say, you know what, I'm going to take a year off and I'm going to go be a coordinator, and he reminds us how great.
So, for Mike McDaniel, for example, he interviewed with Cleveland, did really well. He interviewed with a couple of the other, Baltimore yesterday. Is Mike McDaniel better to set up for success coaching in Tampa or Detroit as a coordinator, or taking, say, the Arizona job? Right. And that's a real discussion that these guys are having.
Oh, that's the easy answer for me. It's the coordinator position, right?
You get 2 chances.
I think what you're saying is, I just wanted to say this really quick. I think you're seeing this with coaches and with players. And we're going to talk about this a little bit with Dante Moore and his situation.
That's a great analogy.
Playing the long game, a lot of times, really does set you up much better for success than this instant microwave decision-making process that a lot of people think that everyone should do. Grab the bag, take the opportunity. Not all opportunities are the same. We talk about it all the time, right? As far as like situations determining your success as much as yourself. I think it's smart for these coaches to really kind of like look at this, survey the landscape, and take their time with this.
And you mentioned the openings. I mean, we judge these things based on the owner and the quarterback. Well,
Right.
in Baltimore, they've got an owner who stability, and you've got the quarterback in Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Seems like that should be a slam dunk job everybody wants. But there are some things that make it complicated.
Yeah, there are. Look, it's a challenging situation. Look, Lamar Jackson is a very powerful personality, a player that wields a lot of power within that organization. You're going to have to, first and foremost, as a head coach, understand that that is the number one relationship you're going to have to cultivate. There is no question about that. That is the number one thing. And I think it has already been shown that he is the one who wields the biggest axe down there. He is the guy who, everything was set up, to kind of like really help grow and foster his success during his entire time there already. So now that the guy who really was in charge of doing that is no longer there, the next guy, you're going to have to pick up with that. And you're going to have to grow that relationship as well, because he is the key